Hi, I'm Shawna.
And I'm Liz.
Welcome to Getting Bookish, a weekly podcast where we will talk about different book-related topics, let you know what we're reading, and even answer Q&As from you.
Be sure to visit our website, gettingbookish.com, and check us out on Facebook and Instagram at Getting Bookish. If you enjoy our podcast, we'd love for you to subscribe and leave us a rating and review, which helps us to be seen by other book lovers.
With all that said, we hope you'll enjoy Getting Bookish with us.
Enjoy the podcast.
Hello, friends. Welcome back to another episode. This episode today is going to be our mid-year recap, which sounded really fun. And then when I started writing things down, I was like, wow.
Yep. There's been some good things and some failures.
Yeah. Yes. So as we have talked about before, in the bookish world, there are no rules. We definitely set goals for ourselves this year, and Shawna and I challenged ourselves to lots of different things. So we're going to talk a little bit about that and kind of our successes and failures and where we are right now. But if you guys want to know a more in-depth details about what we are doing, the challenges we're participating in, some of the books that we are reading for the challenges, podcast episode 2, we actually went over everything that we were doing this year. And so definitely go back and catch up on that one if you want to know more details about our challenges that we are participating in. So how is the year going for you?
My reading world, oh my goodness. I think it's going well. I'm very, very pleased. I challenged myself with 100 books for the year, and I'm under where I need to be. I think I'm at 43 or 44, so I'm not crazy underneath. I'm close to halfway, which is where I should be. I can make it up. But again, like you said, there's no rules. And the books that I've read, I'm so happy about, so you can't lose. I have found some amazing books, some great new authors that I had never known about before. I've had a couple, books I didn't, care for, but, that's the way it goes. Now, even though I've read under my amount for me, I probably have read 500 children's books. So... I swear we go through
counted in some way.
I swear we go through 100 books a month in kids' books, picture books and all of that stuff. So we are a very voracious reading family. And so I'm very proud of myself for even the amount of books that I've read so far. So yeah. What about you? You had 100 books also, right?
Yes. So my goal for the year it's currently 100 books. Mm-hmm. And this is the largest goal that I've set for myself ever. And so I am excited to say that right now I am at 51 books read. So I'm pretty much right on track for the year. And I think that most of that is due to the fact that during the winter months, so January, February, March, April, I read
love
a
how
lot.
Those are all your winter months. And I'm like, no, you just named a couple seasons in summer, for us in Florida. She's in Colorado. And I'm like, wait, hold on. You said March and April? No, that's 100 degrees here.
Well, in Colorado today it hailed. Ugh. So I know. Very different weather patterns we have over here. But definitely in the colder months, I read a lot more. Mm-hmm. And so even though the last couple months I haven't read as much, I was so far ahead before that now I'm staying kind of in track.
Nice.
And I've definitely read some amazing books this year. And I am reading a lot of books that aren't my typical genre. So I love YA fantasy. It's my favorite genre to read, but I have definitely expanded my reading world this year and read a lot of books. I actually have read 23 books that aren't YA fantasy.
Wow, that's like half.
I know.
That's really good. I don't have those numbers of my genres. I need to get that because that's interesting.
And I was curious when I was kind of prepping for us to talk about this because I was like, am I actually reading books that aren't in my chosen genre, or am I just thinking I'm reading books that aren't in my chosen genre? And no, so I've read a lot of books. Some of them haven't been great. Some of them I haven't finished, but some of them have been amazing. Mm-hmm. And I'm just so glad that I'm not so stuck in that genre. Because I think when you only read one kind of book, you start to not have enough things to read. Yeah. If my goal this year was to read 100 books and I was only going to read YA fantasy, I would be scraping the bottom of the barrel right now based on what I've already read in the past. And so I am excited for how that part of my reading goal is going.
Yeah, I think I stepped out of my, I love my World War II books, and I definitely read a fair share of them. So I'd be interested to see what I read that was not. And I might have to guess I might be close to half as well.
I probably are.
Yeah, I read a lot of memoirs. Mm-hmm. I read a couple YA books and just some contemporary novels, which I don't usually read. So there's been some, some really interesting finds. And you know what? I think when I branch out of my World War II zone, it kind of makes me appreciate that a little bit more. Because when I come back to a good book about World War II written so beautifully, I'm like, this is good.
Yay. I love it. Well, so this year, my main challenges for myself were to break out of that genre and to do the Read Harder challenge with my cute little journal. And you guys, I have a confession. Uh-oh. I have not been keeping up with the journal. So much so that I packed it because I'm just not using it. So I don't even have it here to show you. The journal, I love the idea of it, but there are a lot of questions that it asks for every single title. And I just stopped filling them out.
Do you think it's because you read so fast? That it feels like you might always be writing because you read so fast. And you're like, I'm always in this journal.
And it kind of felt like kind of homework-y, maybe. Yeah. So the one thing that I'm really good at keeping up on is Goodreads.
Yeah.
And so I definitely have been putting all of my information in over there and at least giving things like a star rating when I finish them, even if I'm not taking the time to like write an entire review for the book. But at the beginning of the year, I was just like, yes, I'm going to write down every single book inside of this journal. And because it's kind of satisfying to look back and be like, oh, like, here's like all of my thoughts about all of these different books.
In a perfect world.
Yeah, the reality is that I usually just want to start a new book and I don't want to sit down and fill all that out
and
in the
dissect
journal.
It.
Yeah. So that hasn't been my favorite part this year. But there are 12 books or 12 categories for challenges on that list. That's a part of that journal. And so far I've completed 8 of them.
Oh, so, wow.
Yeah, I was really, and I think that's how challenges sometimes go at the beginning. You're really excited. And so you're like, I'm going to read all the books for the challenges. And so I've read, 8 so far. So the categories I have left are the political book.
I figured that would be kind of on the end.
I know. It's terrible. And then a book either by an immigrant or an immigration narrative.
Okay.
And that's something that I'm going to have to actually look up and find a book that fits into that category because I'm not even sure. And then a collection of short stories, which I enjoy short stories, so that one will be easy. I just haven't read one yet this year. And then a book about space, which I thought was very interesting, but probably because we're coming up on the anniversary of the moon landing. And so that's probably why it's a part of the challenge this year. But so those are the ones that I haven't quite gotten to yet. One of the categories I cheated in a little bit.
Oh.
I don't know if books you don't finish should count towards your challenges.
What was the challenge and what was the book?
So the challenge was award-winning YA, and the book that I read for it was Damsel.
Dun, dun, dun. You mean the book that you didn't finish?
Yeah, that was awful. If you guys missed it, I talked a lot about it in the May Bookish Brief. It was a book that I will never pick up again. I believe I got rid of it when I was packing, actually. That's how much I didn't want to look at it anymore. But I didn't read very much of that book, and I counted it for a category, which I'm not sure should really count, but...
Well, you tried it.
Right. And since I read so much YA, I feel like I'll probably read another award-winning YA book at some point during the year. So, Shawna, I know you had several challenges and your amazing bullet journal.
Oh, I'm so embarrassed.
Oh, no. Well, you can't be embarrassed. We're both embarrassed now.
I feel like that's... Please, guys, if you are anything like this, please go to our Facebook page and let us know, because
yes,
I feel like I'm one of those people that I hear an idea, I'm all in. Like, let's do it. Let's do all the things. I can do 50 challenges and keep track of them, and then I don't want to do any of it because I'm like, oh, this takes forever. Just like,
it feels like homework.
It does. I have all the best intentions. I never start something thinking, I hope I can quit this soon. But it's just like, you know, like I want to be a bullet journaler person. I want to be like this awesome, like book challenge person that has it all. I want to be that person, and I'll keep trying. But I thought, you know, I started out with, gosh, how many did I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 challenges. I'm only going to go over a couple of them because some of them, they were just so ridiculous. I made some of them up on my own, and it's just embarrassing. So the one that I really enjoyed, so let me just put it out there, guys. Don't feel like a failure if you start something and it doesn't finish. I had the best of intentions. I did keep up with, like I said, a couple of them, but it was just too much, especially because, like I shared in the Reading Challenge podcast episode 2, this is my first year actually doing a challenge, and maybe that's why I went all in. I'm like, this is awesome. And then I'm realizing I should have started out a little bit slow with like one challenge, you know? So, the Unread Shelf Project 2019. That's a very simple challenge. If you've never done a challenge, I think that's the one that you should do, because it's one challenge every month, and it's basically you pick that book from the challenge, either you read it or you get rid of it. So I have definitely kept up with that. I have half the year to go, and I will have no problem finishing this challenge.
So I have a question real quick.
Yeah.
Have you gotten rid of a book yet?
I have not. I have
Yay!
not. Yeah, I have. I'm looking at it, and they're all filled in. Yeah, so I'm doing good with that because I don't want to get rid of any of the books.
Right.
The second one that I'm doing, the Modern Mrs. Darcy. It's hashtag MMD Challenge on Instagram. I have that filled out a little bit. If you are watching us on YouTube, you can see I've colored in, you know, some of the things here when I've read the book. And so I'm missing a book in the backlist of a favorite author. So does that mean a favorite author's favorite book?
A book in the backlist? I'm not sure.
A book in the backlist. So I'm going to have to do, again, go to our Facebook page. Tell me what that means.
Yeah.
The next one is 3 books by the same author. So I could have counted Nightingale and Great Alone, but I had them under other categories, and then I saw that one, and I was like, ugh. So I have to find that one. And then a book published before I was born. So those are the 3 that I'm missing on that challenge.
Nice.
The other one that I'm really, the final one that I'm enjoying is Hope by the Book 2019 Reading Challenge. That's another one where I've made little shelves.
It's so cute.
And I color.
If you aren't watching this right now, you should definitely just pop over to YouTube to see how adorable Shawna's bullet journal is.
Yes. So I have kept up with this one. Not so much this one over here, but this is the one that I'm talking about right here. The ones that I'm doing pretty well. I only have a couple missing. It's a HBTB Gold Star review, which is Hope by the Book, which is HBTB. They give their own kind of review system. So I have to find one of their books that they gave a gold star to. The next one I need to do is By or About a Pastor or a Pastor's Wife. The next one is about Christian living. An HBTB bookmarked review. So again, another one that they chose. One with an animal on the cover. By or About a Sports Figure. Written between 1950 and 1999. And then a 2018 ECPA bestseller. So those are the ones that I still have to do. I think those were the ones that I'm like, what? So I have to do a little more research on those ones.
Right. I felt like that's how I felt with my challenge too. Like, it's real easy to fill in the first few.
Oh yeah.
Because you're like, oh, a book that I consider a guilty pleasure? Yeah. So that can be anything I'm rereading for the 10th time. Yes. Like, but I feel like then you get into some of those other ones that are like, read a book about a current political issue. And I'm like, I don't want to. But because that is one of the things that I have challenged myself to this year, is just to read more titles that are outside of my reading comfort zone.
And we have 6 months to go.
Yeah, there's plenty of time, which is what I'll also be telling myself the middle of November when I'm like, oh, look, I still have 4 things I haven't read on my reading challenge.
Somebody find me a space book.
Yeah. Do children's books count?
Right.
There actually is a cool book that just came out called The Moon.
Is that the children's book?
No, it's an adult nonfiction about kind of the history of the moon and the space race, and it's come out because we're getting ready to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the moon landing. But that one, we have it at the bookstore and it's on display and I keep looking at it. So maybe that's the one that I should read for a book about space. So I know that we haven't done a super great job keeping track, but I feel like that's the less important part.
Oh, and like you said, I do keep track completely on Goodreads. So I do have everything updated, which I feel very proud of. This is my first year using Goodreads. I've had an account, and I think I've put 5 books over the last 10 years. So I would not consider myself an active Goodreads user until this year. So I'm very proud of that. And now I'm kind of hooked and addicted to updating my progress through my books and everything.
Yes. We've definitely talked about this before, but I love Goodreads.
Yeah.
I, even today, just kind of making notes for this podcast, it was so easy to just go in and, pull up, and you can see the cover of every single book you've read so far this year.
It's so great.
Yeah. And you hover over it and it'll tell you how many stars you gave it. And it's just such an easy way to refresh your memory on what you've read. So even though I don't have a beautiful physical book copy of what I'm reading, I like the kind of nerdy things that using Goodreads offers. And I have it on my phone.
Yes.
And
absolutely.
so it's a lot easier to keep updated. And I think that was the other thing about the journal that was harder, was I take my book with me everywhere. But then do I have to take the journal with me everywhere too? And then that starts to be kind of cumbersome. And then I read something that I'm like, oh, that's a really interesting quote, and I'm supposed to write a quote down in my journal. So do I need to get my journal out right now?
And it takes the joy away.
It does, because I just want to read a great quote and be like, that's a great quote, and then go back to reading.
Right.
And so I think that, hopefully all of us, it's not just Shawna and I, but I think that we get tied up in this, I want this beautiful bookish thing, like a reading journal. but it's so inconvenient because I'd really just rather be reading.
Yeah. I think I just see so many like great things on Instagram and Pinterest, and then I have to bring myself down to the real world of my own life and the expectations that I can really fulfill. You know, who knows what they're doing where they can do these beautiful, elaborate things. That's just not quite where I am yet, but I'm proud of what I've done. And like you said, I just want to repeat to everybody, there's no rules. You don't even have to do book goals. You don't have to do challenges. You don't have to read a certain amount. Just read something.
Yeah. And I think the challenge I'm most enjoying this year was just kind of the vague one that I set for myself that was like, hey, you, stop reading YA fantasy every single day. Like, mix it up a little bit. There's lots of books out there.
Right.
And just like saying that as like my challenge kind of for the year has really encouraged me to be more purposeful when picking up books and being like, oh, this looks really good. Why don't I just buy it and read it instead of being like, I don't know if I'm going to read that because it's a book written for grown-ups. I don't want to read books written for grown-ups. And I've read some science fiction books this year, and I've read historical fiction, and I've read nonfiction, and these are just things that I normally would not pick up. So I'm glad for the challenges in that way, because I think that they're doing what they're supposed to.
Right.
And that's challenging me to read not just my normal
go-tos.
My normal everyday fare. Yes. So I'm excited for our listeners to come on to our social media platforms and let us know what challenges they are doing and if they're still doing them.
Be honest.
Yes. And it's okay to say, hey, I started this challenge and it wasn't a challenge for me. The full Read Harder challenge that they have on the website, it's intense.
I've seen
and that's
it.
why I liked the journal version, because it's just 12 books versus 24. But I was looking at it today because I was like, well, maybe I'll take on, because I only have 4 challenges left. And I'm a crazy person who's already not keeping track, so I don't know why I even thought I could do this. But I was like, maybe I'll take on, like, the full challenge. And then I'm reading through those categories, and I'm like, these sound really hard. Like, do I want to read a book? Well, there was, like, a book written in prison. Like, what kind of book is written in prison?
Oh, I read Picking Cotton. That was...
well, see?
It was a memoir, and I know that some of the letters were written in prison. That was a really good book. Really good.
It had some really great things. Read a book written by a woman that won an award in 2018.
Huh.
And I was like, oh. Like, it had some fun categories. Like, read an #own voices book set in Oceania.
Well, that's not so specific or anything.
Right. And so, but the nice thing is when you're on their website, like, they have links for everything, and you can click on it, and then they give you a list of book ideas.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah. And so, like, I was clicking on it, I'm like, this is not a book I would ever think to pick up for me. Like, to read about the indigenous people of Australia.
Yeah.
Like, a book that was written by them, about them. And I'm like, oh, like, that actually sounds really interesting. But I'm not going to officially take on the full challenge because I will fail. And I don't.
You're doing so well right now.
Set myself up for failure. I know. I was like, I'm on track for my reading goals. I'm only 4 away from finishing my challenge. I think I'm fine. So what are you planning on challenging yourself to for the rest of the year? Finishing off those 3 that you just talked about?
Yeah, I think I'm not going to put too much pressure to finish them. I feel like I read best when it's just organic. Like, I feel, again, it's that homework feeling. Like if I'm like, oh, okay,
Right.
this is what I have to read on my challenge, and then I go to my books, and then all of a sudden I just feel that feeling of, well, I don't want to read anything now then, you know?
Yeah. I'm just going to watch TV.
Right. So I think I'm going to continuously just kind of read organically, and if it fits one of my challenges, I'll put it in there, or if I can see one that kind of matches. But what I'm going to try and do, I know I'm going to fail already. I'm just going to put that out there. I'm going to try to focus more on reading what I have and not acquiring so many more books, because I'm acquiring them at like 500% of the rate that I'm reading them. And there's so many good books that I own and that I know I want to buy. And you and I are both in the Book of the Month Club, which we get a great book every month, and that's fine. But like, I fill up all 5 of our library cards with books I want to read, and they just sit there like 125 books. And sometimes I get to them, sometimes I don't. And I'm like, Shawna, just read the books that you have. So.
Right. And I think it's hard, and we've talked about this recently, that buying books and reading books are separate hobbies.
They are.
And
I'm addicted to both. It's terrible.
I made that joke today with someone who was in the bookstore, because she's like, I haven't even read the books I bought here last time I was here. And as she's walking around with a stack of books in her hand, and I was like, separate hobbies. And she's like, I love that. She's like, I'm telling my husband that when I get home. The girl at the bookstore said, but because I'm the same way. Something has a really amazing cover, or it's by an author that I like, or it's random, or someone like is walking through the bookstore and they point to it for their friend, and they're like, have you read that book? That book is so good. And then I'm like, which one was it?
Yeah.
Let me see.
If it's life-changing, then I totally have to read it
too. Yes. And so I agree. I think that's a good challenge. I think I should probably take some of that into consideration, as I have like 25 boxes of books to unpack at my new house.
Is there anything else that you're trying to work on for the last 6 months, or just finishing up your 4?
I definitely want to finish the 4. I like to finish a challenge, and I think that's why I don't take one on every year.
Smart.
Because, well, because I'm very competitive with myself.
Okay.
And so what ends up happening is I'm like, no, you still have 2 books that you haven't read. And so like the week between Christmas and New Year's, I'm reading all these books that I don't want to read.
Right.
Because I'm like, I must finish the challenge. And so I think finishing up those last 4 categories and just continuing to read more books outside of my genre comfort zone. But really the challenge that I most want to meet is I want to hit 100 books. Yeah. Like, it sounds so, it's a nice rounded off number.
Yeah.
It's 100 books.
I have no doubt that you will be able to do that.
Yeah. So that's really my main goal.
Yeah.
Even if they're all YA fantasy here on out.
You've done your branching out.
Exactly. I was a good girl this year.
So I think our halfway point has gone really well, and I have no doubt that we're going to have a successful end to our year regardless of our challenges. So I want to let our listeners know to tune in next week, where we interview a first-time author, Kim Patton. She's self-published through Amazon, so we discuss a little bit about that, which is exciting. Her book, A Cub Among Bears, How Love and Toughness Raised Me. It's a memoir. And about her growing up with 6 brothers. So tune in next week to hear her chat with us about her book and self-publishing. And that's it for this week. We hope that you have a wonderful week, and we'll see you next time. Bye!
Thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed hanging out with us.
Don't forget to check us out on social media and subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss out on any of the fun.
See you next week.